Hey, welcome back to the channel, everyone. Just a quick update. Next month I'm going to make a video, kind of let you know what is in the future for Faithspring. Today though, I want to do a book review of Rachel Held Evans' Inspired. Her new book came out maybe a month or two ago, and I was excited to read this one. I always love, I think there's been a few really good books about the Bible, like on a macro scale in the last year or two, and this is one I was ready to get my hands on, so I want to do a 3, 2, 1 review for you. 3 things I liked about it, 2 things that could have been improved, and 1 actionable takeaway from the book. So first, a little bit of overview. I have not read anything by Rachel Held Evans before. I've listened to her talk, I kind of know about her story and her theological stance, so I was excited to actually get into something that she made. And the book as a whole is kind of an intro to what some would consider liberal theology, if you're unfamiliar with that, or if you're just from a more mainstream Christian upbringing. Some of the things right off the bat are probably going to rub you the wrong way. At the end of this review, I'll tell you my overall perception of the book. As you dive in, it was kind of a slow start and it started to pick up around chapter 3. So for those of you who have it right now or are planning on reading it, just know that what she is trying to do really gets going about a third of the way into the book. So if you can, just press on through the first third, I feel like you're really going to get to what she wants to say. And I think what she wants to say is really valuable. So first, the 3 things I liked about her book. She emphasizes the idea that we need to stop making the gospel small. And I love the way she phrased it. I love the way she delivered it, because the Bible is a book of very intricate, detailed, complicated stories. And when we try to boil down the gospel to a sentence, to a phrase, I'm guilty of this myself. We lose something essential to what God was trying to do through the mega story that is the gospel. The reason we need the Old Testament to feed into what Jesus was doing is because in order to understand it correctly, we need all of it. So stop trying to make the gospel small. Second, I think this is kind of a tie. Chapter 3 and chapter 6 were probably my favorite chapters, and I think in 3 you're going to find one of the best definitions of doubt in terms of the Christian faith. One of the best definitions of doubt I've ever heard. And I don't say that lightly. I think she really captures the idea of what doubt does in a positive and a negative sense. And then chapter 6, why Jesus matters for the faith beyond the cross. So the cross is kind of the end-all be-all of what a lot of Christians consider the reason for Jesus. And she goes, no, that was just one part, and we need the story to understand why the cross was only a part of why Jesus matters. So that was kind of tied. I kind of cheated for that one. But that was the second of the 3 things I liked. And the third thing is that she continually shows that God is concerned with the specifics. And so when we try to impatiently go to Scripture and pull out general theological meaning, there is good to that, but then there's also danger to that, because God is always concerned with the specifics. And so that's why context matters so much. That's why when you go to Scripture, you need to understand where you are and what all is happening, so that you can understand why this is being communicated in the way it is. Old Testament and New Testament. So in the same way, our Christian faith, God is concerned with the specifics of who we are and what we're going through, and the truth He wants to speak into our lives are not these generalities that kind of just cover a multitude. No, He wants to speak specifically to you, and this is something I teach about in my courses and my books. Like, the reason we need context when reading Scripture is because we need context in our own lives. And that context is what allows things to have the impact they need to have. So that's the third thing. I think she does a great job. I think that comes up in chapter 7 or 8, the very end of the book. So I love those things. The 2 things I wish could have done better. So she does, if you see the cover, you kind of get an idea that she is going for a fairy tale feel. And she spends a lot of the book story retelling. So I'm not going to say storytelling. She's story retelling. She's going into the Bible, taking stories we've heard, and retelling them in some pretty creative ways. Some of them I liked, some of them I didn't. But overall, there was just so much. There was so much story retelling where I had to just skim through parts, and I felt like it could have been less. I feel like I would have gotten more out of the book if her story retellings were more succinct or more purposeful, because when you spend, gosh, I don't know, 1,000, 2,000 words retelling a story I'm already sort of familiar with, and I don't really see too much that's being added, and then the next, 10 pages is explaining just the bare basics, and then we get into like the good meat of what you're trying to say. I felt like the book probably could have been half the size that it is, and it would have been as, or if not more, effective. The second thing she could have done better is I was kind of unsure of who she was writing to. So she obviously has her own audience. I am sort of familiar with who that audience is, but as someone who is pretty steeped in Christian writing, Christian culture, so on and so forth, both from an academic sense and a non-academic sense, a more popular version, I wasn't sure who she was writing to, because she went into great detail sometimes where the average reader is going to get bored or lost. And then other times she had so much fun writing where if you were trying to make an argument, like some books do, I think she would have lost those people too. So she swayed back and forth, and I know, I think I understand the reason she did that. I just feel like as someone who is coming to it kind of fresh, because this is a book I wanted to pick up, I wasn't sure how I fit into the story she was telling, how I, was she trying to convince me of something, invite me into something? It wasn't really clear, and so I think it was a satisfying experience overall, but it could have been made a little better. And so the last thing, the one actionable takeaway, and this goes for, a number of books have done this, but I think this re-engaged it in me, is that we have to stop assuming we understand what we understand about the Bible. Now, I think there's a difference between faith and belief and assumption. I think a lot of the times, Christians, especially when you have grown up in church, we surrender our faith, or we surrender somewhere along the line, our familiarity with Scripture becomes assumption, and we stop going into it. We stop being curious. We stop engaging in a way that is challenging. And so when we go to the letters of Paul, we don't go to it as, hey, I am curious about this. I want to learn what Paul said in this context so I can understand how to apply it to my context. Instead, we go, hey, Paul says this. I'm just looking to find where it is so that I can deliver it, Bible bash it, however it ends up. I think she really pushes the envelope with some of the things she's writing, and I think that's good. As someone who grew up in a more conservative context and has kind of expanded as I've learned more, I think this is an accessible book. It's an accessible book for most Christians who are looking to see the Bible in a more challenging way, and want to engage it at a deeper, honestly, more mature level. And so I think this book is great. I would probably rate it 3 out of 5. The 2 stars that the book lost was primarily because of length and just the retelling of stories. I think that could have been done a little better. Overall, I definitely recommend this book, that you pick it up. It's, Rachel Held Evans. This will probably make me go read 1 or 2 more of her books, because I am curious about what she has to say about other things, now that I kind of understand where she is on the spectrum. So thank you again for watching this video. We have a few more book reviews coming up, and again, next month I'll kind of give you a good update video for the whole channel, and just the whole macro of what's all going on. So thank you again, and I'll talk to you soon.